editor-in-chief of Off the Bench magazine. And today I'm excited. I'm super excited because we have a special guest on. We have Elise Krentzel, I think I'm saying that right, who is Krentzel, who is the author of a newly released book called Under My Skin. And the reason I'm excited is because it is her memoirs about being one of the youngest journalists to tour with Kiss back in the 70s during their Tokyo, Japan tour. And so, Elise, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for inviting me, Mark. I'm
Great,
good.
great. Hey, I don't do bios on my show because I think the audience would love to hear directly from you about you. So tell us what you want to know about who you are and we'll get moving.
Okay. Basically, I did not have a straight path in my life, so no climbing any ladders, going zigzag all the way. Started as a rock journalist, then owned a talent and booking agency in Tokyo, Japan at the age of 21. So this is back in the day when like girls, women did not really have businesses, especially in a foreign country.
Hmm.
Okay. So I introduced punk rock to the Japanese market. At the same time, I was into hip hop when it was just starting, but did not bring over any artists. Instead, brought over some jazz artists, like Donald Duck Dunn, the late Howard Johnson, the tubist. These guys played on Saturday Night Live when like Lorraine Newman and Gilda Radner
Deal
were
around. Uh-huh.
popular.
Yes.
Okay. After that, I came back to the States because I lived in Japan for about 5 years. So that was crazy. And then I came back to the States. I had a marketing company, and I don't need the whole resume. All I'm trying to say is that whatever I've done, wherever I've done it, has been unorthodox, unconventional, and I don't want to call myself a visionary. Rather, I'm one who has vision and I can bring out the talents in other people and I can dig out the gems like an architect.
Hmm.
So I've applied that to different communications fields. Basically, during COVID, I returned to my first love. I've already written 2 books, they weren't published, but I returned to my first love of writing
Hmm.
and wrote book 1 of my memoir, Under My Skin. And now I'm working on book 2, and I'm halfway done.
Nice. Nice. Now, Lisa, so talk about before we get to the tour and how that whole thing went down, how in the world did you get into writing, get into wanting to write and expressing yourself through the written word?
Okay, so I come from the Bronx in New York, raised in the better borough of Queens, and I came from a dysfunctional family, like who hasn't, right?
Hmm.
Very few people. However, mine was super toxic in so many ways. I was allowed to express myself artistically because my mom had that sense.
Hmm.
And she was sculpting. She was kind of this hippie, way out there, left wing kind of person. But my father was stuck in the 1940s in his mind. Um, so basically, what happened was that I hid my heart and dove into writing to express myself and playing guitar.
Mm.
So, in a way, like hiding myself, hiding my heart, and running away and fantasizing through writing. So that by the time that I was 15, I had this aha moment where I said, oh, I love music. I collected albums back in the day. I had this huge collection of 2,000 LPs. I was like the walking Wikipedia of the music scene. I could name which band went where, what song, who played what instrument, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, okay, I'll become a music journalist. And I had one mentor, my poetry teacher, who loved my writing and said, I'm going to teach you how to write what they called back in the day a cover letter, where you would query by sending a letter typed on IBM Selectric typewriter,
Right.
and you would query magazines. Anyway, 2 years later, I got published in Circus Magazine, one of the leading rock publications at the time.
Hmm.
Okay, then what happened was I was living in the city, New York City, going to college at night, no student loans, just working my way through this stuff, holding down a full-time job, and writing record reviews, interviewing people, concert reviews. But I didn't know, like, I needed a strategy. I didn't know how I'm going to further this freelance gig. And now comes the point where you ask me, so what happened with Kiss?
So what happened with Kiss? I'm waiting, like, you freelancing, you're gonna get here somehow or another, you tripped over somebody's guitar and boom, there you go. How did you go from all of that to writing and rolling out with Kiss overseas in Japan?
Okay, so what happened was that I said to myself, I need a strategy. And so what I did was I wrote to the British and Canadian consumer and trade journals in the music industry. And I said, hey, do you need a New York correspondent? Because who was doing that? Nobody. It wasn't a prestigious enough gig. It wasn't the New York Times or Post, right? It wasn't Stereo Review. And I got these gigs from 3 different publications. Now I'm on the masthead, New York correspondent. And now I'm getting swag, I'm going backstage, I'm meeting all the bands, I'm doing all the writing. I'm writing not only from the consumer point of view, but from the music industry point of view. What's going down, everything about the industry. And I got a call from the PR manager from the press office. That was the name of their PR firm, Kiss's PR firm. And I get a call. I'm 19 years old. They're like, do you want to go to Japan? This is Kiss's Japan tour. And I was this snooty, know-it-all kid. And I said, no, I don't like the band.
What? How did you say you didn't like the band? Oh, because you're a critic and you just didn't like them. But go ahead. I'm here.
Right. So I didn't like them. And okay, so I hung up the phone. 3 weeks later, I get a call back. Now, he's telling me, you're going to love the band. You can write what you want, because I said that's a condition. I upheld this ethic. If I cannot write what I want, I won't work for your magazine, right? That's the job of the critic. I am not supposed to be biased, unbiased. I'm not supposed to be standing in the middle anywhere. I'm just going to give my opinion. He said to me, I am sure that you will love it. I guarantee you will love it. I said, well, if I can write what I want, then I'll come. And so it was. And I was invited. I was the youngest. There were 10 journalists, 1 photographer, 9 journalists. And like bookends, the youngest was me, and the eldest was a woman from, I think, Reuters or AP.
So then you're now on board. You're getting ready to go. The flight. Legendary. I know they had their own plane. I know the pilots are probably still in recovery somewhere from all the stuff that went on that plane. But talk about the flight and starting of the tour and how when you got to Japan.
Okay, first off, the whole thing was unbelievable. It was just, you can't even imagine being picked up in a limo. 19 years old and just being picked up in a limo and okay, now we're at the airport, and we get on the Kiss Pan Am Clipper. It was a 747. It was their own plane. It had 2 stories. So there was a stairwell in the middle. Kiss went upstairs. They did not hang out with us. The management, the roadies, the journalists, photographers, etc., etc. They did come down now and again. They always wore their makeup, because this is back in the day.
They always had their makeup on? Like this was like a full, because the cameras are there, you're taking pictures, they're always in gear. They're always in costume. Okay, go ahead.
Always, right. Now it's a 12 or 13 hour flight. So I'm sure that when they went up there and they slept a couple of hours, 8 hours or whatever, they did what they did. But when they got off the plane, they had their makeup on and their full gear costume. So what happened on the plane from us, I met the other journalists. We were all chatting, talk to the management,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. Eating great food, drinking champagne. This is back in the day when you could smoke cigarettes on the plane.
Walk into the cockpit. Hey, what's going on, Bob? Hey, come on in.
Yeah.
Can't fathom any of that right now. Never, that'll never ever happen
No,
again.
no.
Ever again.
Yeah, I mean, so all of that was that was very exciting, very exciting.
So now you're writing. So as you're starting to write and observe Kiss and you're critiquing and whatever, what do you find the most unique thing about this group? They're worldwide. This about 70s and early 70s, mid 70s are at the height of their superstardom. So
This was
what do you?
Yeah, this was 1977. So what I found, look, I could not separate
Mm,
the band, the music, the mayhem of what was going on in Japan. For me, it was just one holistic event.
mm.
And it was crazy. And I wrote and this is in my book, but I wrote in my story for Record Week that they were bigger than the Beatles. And they really were. They were
You hold
bigger.
on. That's blasphemy. You just blasphemed the Beatles and the perception of who was the biggest band of all times. I tend to agree with you, but go ahead and explain why you say what you say.
Well, I wrote that they were bigger than the Beatles in Japan. When we got off the plane, there were more than 5,000 screaming Kiss lookalike girls. Most of them had makeup of Peter Criss, the cat.
Okay, right.
He was the most popular one there, not Gene Simmons.
Mm,
Because if you ever gone to a Japanese restaurant or a Japanese shop, do you know they call it the maneko,
mhm.
the cat that
Right.
has its hand?
That keeps
So,
moving. Right, right.
right. That means bring good luck, bring money into the shop. Um, but cats are beloved in Japan.
Mm. Of
So
course, they're
Peter,
drawn to that one.
they're
Gotcha.
drawn to that one. But anyway, now so you have 5,000 screaming girls on the rooftop where there was a lookout place at the old Haneda Airport.
Hmm.
No longer. I think they only use it as a local airport now. And we are coming out, and it's a barrage of screaming girls. It's amazing. And now some of the journalists that I'm walking with are like tipping their hat, like, "Yeah, thank you. Here I am." you know,
Not for you. This was not
not
for
for you,
you.
dude.
That's crazy. So all these people are screaming and yelling. Chris is in full garb. They're walking out. So when you're writing them, do you get to go to the practices? Do you get to go to
Yeah,
rehearsals, or did they even
yeah.
rehearse and they showed up and did their thing?
Oh no. I mean, even rehearsals, they were always in their gear and their makeup, always. You never, ever, never saw them without their makeup.
What? Why was that? I mean, we were just selling the.
Part of the mystique. That
I
was
think
built.
Kiss has done probably, or Gene Simmons, whoever's the mastermind, has done a masterful job of keeping that brand alive with all of the things that they do and go like that. So they were just always in. That's fascinating. They're always in makeup.
Well, that was Bill Aucoin. He passed away. That was their manager. I mean, this was his mastermind. And
Mm,
Gene turned out to be, an excellent businessman
hmm. Yeah, definitely do
in his
that.
own right. Look at it. What is this, 45, 50 years later?
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So the tour now. Let's talk about the night of the concert. Well, just pick a concert night. I know they have
Okay.
several big tour.
Okay.
Which one was the best night?
Okay. So it was I think 15 days in total. We toured all over Japan. We went to their rehearsals. We went to every concert. We went to dinner with them, not every night, some of the nights.
Hmm.
They held a press conference day one. That was just jam-packed, over 100 press people, photography, lights flashing the whole time. They could hardly even speak because all the flashing lights. But the best concert, or I would rather say concerts, were the last 3 nights of the tour before leaving for America at the Budokan, which is Tokyo's main hall.
Hmm.
Budokan is basically a sumo wrestling hall, which they turned into also a concert venue.
Hmm.
Now, in Japan, they're very polite. It is not like America where you're up and dancing and screaming. People were in their seats, clapping. And then they had the cigarette lighters that was
Uh-huh.
very popular
Right.
back in the concert days. Like today, we use our iPhone for that same light.
Right.
And yes, they were like, woo, but it wasn't fanatical.
Hmm.
It was just calm. And then at the last couple of songs, then they got up. And then they started, screaming and crying and kissu.
That had to be phenomenal. Oh, the impact, the impact. So while you were there, what do you think the Kiss's impact musically and culturally was on Japan?
Oh, culturally and musically, which I guess are one and the same from the band, they made a lasting impression. They were, like I said, bigger than the Beatles. They were phenomenal. They were superstars. They were as big as kabuki stars
Hmm.
in Japan.
Hmm.
Every magazine wrote about them. I even did a story which was translated into Japanese, like my diary on tour. And they were loved, beloved.
So tell me about, give me one high view of the after parties because you heard rumors, they were just off the chain all the time. So tell me, like, was there a great night one night where you just like, I can't believe this is here, I'm happening, this is going down? Did you have anything in those stories in there, or is it all in the book?
I, I hate to disappoint you. I don't have a story about an after party with Kiss. I have some other very crazy, wild stories about what I did with some journalists in Kyoto.
We have to get the book, or are you going to share one?
No, no, I'm not. That's a spoiler alert. Just put it this way. Here's what I'm going to tell you. One thing, I met the Yakuza, which is the Japanese mafia, with the tattoos all over their body.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That's all I'm saying.
Oh, well, right. There it is. There's the tease. There is the tease. So now so the tours wind down, last couple of nights, whatever. What happens? Where are you after the tour?
Okay, well, look, I was a wild child. I'm telling you, wild child.
Hmm.
While I was in Japan, the publisher and promoter, well, the promoter's different. The publisher invited me up to their offices because I was writing this story, this diary. And while I was there, I was talking to the editor-in-chief all about different bands from the UK. I was very much into punk and to the whole new scene with like Elvis Costello, Graham Parker and the Rumor, all these Brit alternative pop bands. I said, what about that? Do you have the publishing rights in Japan? I've always been able to see like what is the next popular thing in modern culture.
Mhm.
And they said no. Long and short of it is, I got offered a 1-year contract to be the personal assistant to the CEO.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't blink an eye, even though I was then needing to leave journalism full time. I said, this is a chance of a lifetime.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the band and most of the journalists, except for one, my friend Andrew, and I stayed on in Japan a couple of extra weeks. Everybody went home. And then 3 months later, my contract began and I was flown over and I moved to Tokyo, Japan.
Wow. And how long did you stay there?
5 years.
In those 5 years, what did you get into as far as like your flower child, you're moving with the vibe and flow? What did you get into?
Well, okay, so I just want to say this is not in this first book. This book is only from age 5 to 20. And another thing for your listeners, it's not all about Kiss. That's about 1/4 of the book
Mhm.
because it's the backstory of coming from this crazy family, right? That got me there. And I think this crazy family background helped me in a very circuitous way. It helped me to not label things and to be open-minded. And so in the next 5 years, what I did was I ran a talent and booking agency. I also became the Tokyo bureau chief for Billboard magazine.
Nice.
Again, the youngest and first female to do that in Asia. I was a DJ. I got my hands a little bit in everything related to the music business.
Hmm. Hmm. Awesome. Well, I think it's definitely fascinating reading. But you talk about the book, the title itself. Why that title, and what does it represent about you in this book?
Okay, so the title is Under My Skin, subtitle Drama, Trauma, and Rock and Roll. So, under my skin, because everything was hidden, everything was underneath the outside mask that I wore.
Mm.
I say this, I used to be a drama queen, but now I'm just a queen.
Nice. Nice.
So there was drama, a lot of drama,
Mhm.
following me like a ball and chain around my life. There was always some sort of upheaval, trauma, a lot of trauma, all kinds of abuse, and rock and roll, because it was always there. You know, I learned about music in my own home. My father had this amazing jazz collection. He had about 3,000 78s, RPMs, 45s, LPs from the 1920s, late 20s to the 1940s. Only jazz
Mm.
and blues. So I grew up on, you know, uh, everyone from George Gershwin to, you know, Satchmo to Ella,
Nice exposure.
Mills Brothers, you know, you
Mhm.
name it.
Mhm.
And then my mother, on the other hand, was into, you know, the Beatles or the Stones and everything modern at that time. I was into Motown. Totally, I had two 45 boxes of Motown singles.
Mm. Now, you still have that collection? Where is that collection?
Oh, I sold it years ago. I'm like, ugh, so pissed off at myself. I think I have something like 20 45s left.
Oh, wow.
I don't
That
know.
was like, that was like, at least that was like early Bitcoin, what you had. You had the Bitcoin before it was Bitcoin.
Yeah, I've done a lot of really smart things in my life.
Well, that's we thank you for coming on. Let the people know where they can get your book or be ready for your second book when it comes out.
Okay, sure. Well, you can go to my website, which is www.elisekrenzel.com. Do I need to spell that out, Mark?
No, I'm gonna put it in the show notes. It's fine.
Okay, great. And then also you can go to Amazon and get it.
Hmm.
And if you live in Texas, you can get it at a bookstore.
Is that
If
in
you
every
live,
bookstore? It's either Amazon or in the Texas bookstore.
yeah, or
Okay.
bust. Yeah. I mean, or you could order it. If you really want to support your local bookstore, then go to the bookstore and say, "Hey, do you carry this book?" And
Hmm.
they will say no. And you will say, "Okay, please order it for me." Or just go to Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. What's coming up next for you? I know you got to say the book is coming out. Anything else? You got any tours? You back? Do you still write? And if the kids went back on tour, would you go?
Okay, so three questions. So, yes, I'm writing book two. I'm halfway into it. I am looking to get more book signings and book tours. Right now, I'm looking at booking Brooklyn and New York City in November.
Okay.
So I'm working on that. And would I go on tour with Kiss again now? No.
So,
I
No,
wouldn't. You know, about 7 years ago, they played in Austin. It was their 40th anniversary.
right.
And I went to the concert and I loved being there. It was truly nostalgic.
Hmm.
Now, Austin is known as the live music capital of the world. Well, Paul gets out there and he says, "Hey, Austin, Texas, not the live music capital of the world." And everybody started applauding. I got a laugh out of that.
That's what's well, at least thank you so much for stopping by. And if you get to New York in November, please let me know. I would see if I can try to come up and meet you in person. That would be hot.
Oh, that would be great. Okay.
Absolutely. We'll do it live. We'll talk some more about your second book and whatever. But you have a space in our magazine, and we'll have your book cover in our magazine and your link so people can go and find you.
Okay, Mark. Thank you so much. It was
You're
fun.
welcome. You're welcome. Thanks so much. Hey, everybody, don't forget to subscribe to the Off the Bench magazine. Go to offthebenchmagazine.com and get your subscription there. Don't miss an episode. As always, I'll leave you with this. If you can reach your dreams with a step ladder, then they're probably too low. I'm out.
Bye.